Today on Locked On Rockies, strikeouts and bullpen blunders.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 25th day of July in the year 2022. I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Proud to be your first listen of the day. We are free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. All you got to do is just search Locked On Rockies and you will find us. I guarantee it. And today on the Locked On Rockies podcast, as I'm still in my little set there, maybe I'm more in the center there, maybe here. Womp, womp. There we go. That'll line me up a little bit more with you all here. I'm still messing with this stuff. This move has been something crazy. Anyway, that's just me rambling. Today on Locked On Rockies, we are talking Ryan McMahon. We're talking strikeouts. We're talking bullpens and another example of why this team needs to make moves. The series, the status of the Rockies, how this series has played out. Again, all examples of why the Rockies need to move on from some of the pieces and get better for a future season, because the road, it continues to get longer. It continues to get harder. It hasn't gotten better yet for the Rockies. We'll break it all down here today. Eric Harper's in the live chat, just like you all could be if you subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On Rockies is brought to you by Blue Nile. Blue Nile makes your moment sparkle, and you can go see the Blue Nile anniversary sale right now at BlueNile.com and save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. The Rockies have lost 3 in a row to the Brewers, trying to avoid the sweep in the rare 4-game set here, the Monday stretch, before a quick little brief series with the White Sox. And the one thing that I noticed from this is Ryan McMahon is in a tough spot right now. In terms of offense, the defense is getting there. We have seen him make some great plays, but he had 10 at-bats against the Brewers in the games. He sat yesterday's game. He went 0 for 10 with a lot of strikeouts. A lot of striking out. Something the Rockies do a ton of is striking out. 6 strikeouts in 10 at-bats from a guy you just extended, from a guy you would hope to take a step up in terms of offense. That hasn't been the case. Ryan McMahon has struck out a lot in his career. 2019, 160 strikeouts, 66 in the pandemic-shortened season, 147 strikeouts, and he's 4 away from 100 strikeouts this season. I'm going to put my money on a potential of a close to, if not a career-high strikeouts. That's a lot of striking out Ryan McMahon has to do to get to 160 strikeouts. Can he get to that 147 again? I think so. If it's at this pace, again, 6 strikeouts and 10 at-bats. I mean, another 6 strikeouts puts him at 102. You know, if you keep adding on and doing some of that type of stuff, especially in those prime spots. Ryan McMahon is trusted with the 5th spot of the batting order. Ryan McMahon is looked at as someone that the Rockies believe can generate runs, and he's not doing it at the clip that he's supposed to. If you're going to fill in, if you're going to be in the meat of the order, if you are going to be in an important offensive spot like that, you can't strike out 6 times in 10 games. You just simply can't. And that sentiment also extends to CJ Cron, who I believe had 5 strikeouts in a matter and close to 10 at-bats. The middle of the order for the Rockies cannot strike out with runners in scoring position. Any team, good teams don't do that. You have to be, you have to put the ball in play. Striking out is easily the worst thing that you can do in any situation when it comes to offense. There was a philosophy of striking out is okay. That striking out is not okay. Anytime that you put the ball in play, anytime that you make the defense work, anytime that you make any sort of a change can happen, that is going to be more beneficial, a more productive out than just striking out. A ball not in play severely limits the ability for runners to score, and it severely limits the impact, the ability for runners to move up. Striking out, CJ Cron and Ryan McMahon need to be doing what the Brewers do and hit home runs when they need it. They need to be clutch there. And that has not been the case. Ryan McMahon this season, 238 batting average, 332 OBP, slugging of 370, and an OPS of 701. Now, am I sitting here trying overhyping what Ryan McMahon could be doing? Yeah, maybe, because he hasn't had a career OPS of over 779 in a season. Hasn't had, he's below where he's at in slugging, and his OBP, he's kind of right in there with the rest of his career. And the batting average isn't much lower. 238 compared to 254 last season, 250 in the last full season in 2019. So my question is, if we're seeing Ryan McMahon struggle here, if we know Ryan McMahon historically isn't the offensive threat that we were hoping for or hoping that he could change into, why is he batting where he's batting in the batting order? Why is he not moved in different directions? Why is he not in a situation where someone else who can be more of a run generator is there? And that kind of goes with your lack of depth. Me personally, I'd rather Brendan Rodgers be in that mix. I'd rather see Ryan McMahon drop down a little bit. Maybe put Jose Iglesias up there a little bit more. If you're going to, What is Ryan McMahon doing in the middle of your order when he's got those career numbers, when he has that history of those offensive statistics? Could the Rockies be getting more from some of their other players? Ryan McMahon is still a good player. Ryan McMahon deserves a starting spot. But the Ryan McMahon, after that contract extension, we need to see more from him on offense. We know the defense is there. We know he can make big plays. We know he can hit the ball in certain aspects. But when you commit like that, and when you tell him that, and when you are in the position that Ryan McMahon has been in, and is being the kind of one of the next steps, one of the next future pieces, one of the pieces of the foundation, it's not out of the question to ask for more. And right now, the Rockies need more from Ryan McMahon. The Rockies need a lot more from Ryan McMahon. The Rockies, if you want to fight back to 500, it's going to come off of someone like Ryan McMahon undergoing his most successful stretch of the season. A long stretch of the season. It's frustrating, but it's something we need to consider. The one cool part that we're seeing from Ryan McMahon, one nice thing that is so interesting and why we want to see him get on base, is the stealing is interesting. I mean, he's been kind of going on a frenzy of late, as Purple Row is calling it. He's been stealing bases, and that's awesome. This is something, that type of aggression, that type of way of getting things going. I wish the Rockies did more of that. I think the Rockies should be stealing more bases a lot. I think the Rockies need to be better on the bases in general, and better as being a more aggressive team on the base pass and generating runs in different ways. So again, maybe we're expecting too much from Ryan McMahon when we've seen the career, but when you commit like that, when you are a key member of this foundation, when you're put in the spot in the batting order that the Rockies put him in, the Rockies need more from Ryan McMahon. Going to dive into the live chat here and talk a little bit more about this series, and something we talked a bit before about as well, especially after the season. It's very, very, not season, this series. It's very, very relevant. But I want to tell you about BlueNile.com. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as your favorite person with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft the perfect engagement ring, and each ring is one of a kind. If you're looking for fine jewelry but having trouble choosing exactly the situation that I would find myself in, I wouldn't know where to start. I wouldn't know where to look. Well, guess what? The great staff at BlueNile.com, they got jewelry experts on hand 24/7. They're available on the phone or the web chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. Eric Harper in the live chat asks, if you're in charge of the team's direction as of today, where would you like to steer the team? Sellers. This team should sell. This team should trade CJ Cron. This team should trade Jose Iglesias. This team should trade Daniel Bard. And this team should trade Alex Colome. It's really simple, honestly. This team isn't competitive enough. This team isn't going to cover the ground. This team isn't going to make up the distance. It's the teams that are winning are too good. The season continues to move on. And when you're 10 games below 500 and you're now even further back in the wild card, what are we doing? The worst direction, like we talked about yesterday, that this team can take is no direction, is nothing at the deadline. This team either believes fully in we're competitors and in this team and you buy, or you sell and you just play. You get prepared. You bring up one of your top prospects and he plays first base for months. And then he can go into spring training after playing 2 months at the end of the season at every day at first base. You trade Jose Iglesias and you let Tovar come up and play. Like, why not? These pieces, the Rockies can replenish parts of their farm system. They can add, left-handed pitching. The Rockies need left-handed pitching from the bullpen. Holding on to all of these players doesn't make your bullpen better. And let's dive into that. Eric, the bullpen blew it again. The bullpen betrayed the Rockies again. How often? This team is not competitive when you go out and sit there and say, we're going to throw Chacin out there still. I'm sorry. Chacin has had a long history in a Rockies uniform. He's had a nice career. But folks, you can't sit there and say your bullpen is competitive and this team's competitive and this team can make a run and do this, that, and the other thing when you got to rely on Chacin as your long reliever. What about that game on Saturday makes you sit there and say, this Colorado Rockies team is going to go on a run and this bullpen is going to shut the door? They used all their pieces. And then what happens yesterday? Lucas Gilbert can't do anything. This bullpen is not built for a run. This bullpen is not good. You don't know what you have in terms of some of your bullpen pieces at the minor league level. You don't really know what you're doing with your bullpen. You're really, honestly, in my eyes, the philosophy of the Rockies bullpen is hopefully the Rockies offense scores enough runs that they can shutter through the middle of the order, and Daniel Bard's going to win in a close one. Because who out of the Rockies bullpen, Tyler Kinley would be the one person you would say, gets on the bump and not in a closing situation, and you say, I have 110% full confidence in these arms to get me out of this situation. Can the Rockies say what the Brewers say and have three people and their plan is this? He's going to pitch after our starter. He's going to pitch the eighth, and then Hader's going to come and throw a slider that crosses over batter's boxes in the ninth. The Rockies can't do that. Alex Colome, Daniel Bard, Robert Stevenson, Lucas Gilbreth, Bird. I mean, do any of these names really make you sit there and say, this is a bullpen that is going to help this team be successful? No. And you've seen it on the field. I mean, Rocky starters have bounced back a little bit. I mean, it's still been tough. I mean, we saw Chad Kuhl struggle, but Austin Gomber comes in and keeps the Rockies very much in that game, the entire game. That game should have been a real ugly one, but the Rockies did fight back. That was a great job for the Rockies to come back. And guess what? This should be enough to win a game, especially when you come back. When you score 2 runs in 3 straight innings, but you can't get out of the 8th inning without allowing 3 runs, that's an issue. That's the 8th inning. That is now twice in this series that the Rockies have turned to their bullpen and they have let them down tremendously. That is 2 losses, important ones. If you were actually to be sitting there in the mindset, we'd be having different conversations right now if the Rockies did go out and win these 2 games, because they'd be in a position to win their 4th straight series. That's the type of run that you have to go and start and focus on. However, getting swept to below 500 or 10 games below 500, and for the wild card to get even further away because your bullpen isn't doing it, and you're approaching a deadline when you can get help and when you can bolster it, maybe not immediate help, but maybe some young guys that are going to be ready to go next year, or maybe some young guys you can get some professional experience and some reps, some innings this year to then help you in the future. That's a better move. It's a better move for the Rockies to just say the team isn't working. Why they don't want to do that is beyond me, because they're so scared that people aren't going to come. Folks, listen, they're not. But let me let you in on a little secret. Dick and Bill, everyone over there, 20th and Blake in the offices. You're still going to lead the league in attendance. You're still going to be one of the teams that's going to have people come, because people love Coors Field. That's something we will all applaud you. Coors Field is a wonderful place to watch a baseball game. Denver rules in the summer. It's there. It's great. Yes. If you say that you're doing this stuff, it's not going to stop people from coming, because people love to go and watch. People will watch Charlie Blackmon. You have Chris Bryant. You have your superstar. But real baseball fans are going to continue to sit and languish at the fact that that Coors Field is full of more opposing fans than Rockies fans, and that Rockies fans have to sit there and watch their bullpen gets blasted around. Competitive teams don't lose games in the 8th inning. Teams that are making runs don't lose games, close 1-run games at the back half. Good competitive teams have people that come onto the bump at the end of games and you say, this should be a win. Luckily, we've been able to get to say that about Daniel Bard lately. Daniel Bard has been good, if not great. That is clear. But there is no one else in this Rockies bullpen other than Tyler Kinley before they got hurt that you sit there and say, This is it. These are the arms that are going to take down the Dodgers in September. These are the arms that are going to take us into Milwaukee after the break and get us 2 out of 3 and leading into a potential series win here, or at least a series split. Not only the Rockies, I mean, I know the title of this podcast is The Rockies Need More from Ryan McMahon, but they need a lot more from their bullpen. A lot more. The Rockies bullpen has let them down tremendously in this series against the Brewers. And a couple more questions here, a couple more points from the live chat here we'll dive into as well. And one thing that the Rockies really need to take a note from the Brewers on here in just a moment. But before we do that, got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today at betonline.net. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. In the live chat, Eric Harper says, I'm thankful for Connor and Brendan this season among some other highlights, and I'm more confident in Chris going forward. Chris Bryant is making an impact. The Rockies would be a little bit better with if they had Chris Bryant for the full season. The Rockies might even be in a more competitive atmosphere for the Rockies. But it's not something that at the Rockies necessarily can just lean on. But I think Chris Bryant is going to have a nice second half here. And Connor Joe and Brendan Rodgers have also been wonderful. Brendan Rodgers, if you took that April out, would be a real bright spot. If he was contributing them, that would have been, who knows what that earlier stretch could have helped with the Rockies now. But Eric Harper says, which starting pitcher would you hope to add for next season? That's a good question. I don't hate the Rockies rotation right now. I really don't. And bringing in big name starters is something that's really tough. It's just, again, like we talked about in the last segment, my focus, if I was the Rockies, would not be on starting pitching. If I was to do something, you already have most of your rotation committed to. And I'm fine with Urias, who the Rockies have been turning to so far. Chad Kuhl would come back. I mean, I think if you don't move on from Chad Kuhl in the deadline, which you definitely could, it's another option there. I'm all right with Jose Urena. I think he's been fine, and again, a young guy who's shown a few starts that have been pretty good here. 1-2, 3.3 ERA in 8 games, 31 innings, 17 strikeouts, and 1.42 WHIP. I don't hate it. I mean, he threw pretty darn well. I mean, he did get the 5 earned runs there in the game on Saturday. That one did get a little out of hand, but again, he's young. That I feel a little bit better about that. I'm just glad that he's continuing to start games and getting options. It's kind of crazy. He's 30. He's not really a young guy. I mean, in terms of his performances there, he's been around. I'm okay with Jose as well, but is it going to be enough? I don't think the starters as much is an issue as the bullpen. And I see you, Eric, there say our starting rotation drives me insane. I get that. But the Rockies have gotten good success out of 4 of their arms. You still have Austin Gomber as well that you can go for. I'd rather the Rockies go out and start getting people that can navigate the middle of the game. Michael Disney says, would love to see the Rockies make a couple package deals for a big name starter and a solid bullpen piece. I just wish the management could get out of their own way. Yeah, you'd have to do something big, but this deadline, especially at the deadline, it's going to be so hard to pull off a deal to get a starting pitcher from other teams that are going to want to go out and get the best available starting pitchers for their runs. I think if you're going to be there, if the Rockies are going to add a starter, it's going to come either in an offseason trade or a signing. I mean, that's even harder. The trades really are going to be the things that the Rockies need to do to bring players that wouldn't sign in Colorado to Colorado, because that's going to be one thing that always is a factor is, will they sign here? Can they sign here? Do they want to sign here? Using a trade can do that. I just don't necessarily think the Rockies are going to be able to compete with anybody out there and go out and get some of these starters. But, the Mariners have a ton of prospects. I would love for the Rockies to just go talk to Miami. Miami has more pitchers than they know what to do with at that level. I think that those are some teams that you should target. Obviously, you're not going to get their best things. You're not going to go get Sandy or anything like that, obviously, from the Marlins. But there are teams that have so much depth in some of these areas. I would like the Rockies to go. I think a Marlins-Rockies deal seems like it would make the most sense there because the Marlins need offense. The Rockies have players on offense that they could send over there. Especially if you're thinking your Cron and Jose Iglesias is there. You have you got some other pitching stuff that you can maybe add to bolster some of that stuff. There's some teams that definitely would like Daniel Bard out of the pen. So that would be, I don't have names specifically of who I would go and target right now, because I don't think they're going to get anybody at the deadline in terms of a starter. I think this is the rotation. This is the starting rotation. Bullpen pieces might be a little different, but it's The Marlins and the Rockies seem to be two teams that should be doing some talking. I don't know if the Marlins are playing their way out of their competitive window for this season or not, and maybe makes them more hesitant. And maybe they'll just kind of ride the wave of this season and be more active in the offseason. But that's someone I would like for the Rockies to go out. But I also would have liked the Rockies to go out and see what some of these pitchers that were on the waivers and old friends that they could have done if they wanted to bring them in, just to see. But for me, the focus should be on the bullpen before the starting rotation. The starting rotation has done enough to keep you in most games this year. Then the bullpen has to lock it down and win. To lock down some people that can bring you in and win games in the middle of them and bounce back like we've seen. I mean, the Rockies bullpen had no answer for the Brewers and kept giving up 2-out home runs. Rockies need to take a pay. That was my one thing I was going to say, that the Rockies should take note. We talked about how important it is to hit home runs and the Rockies having a home run problem. Here you go. Here's a team that hits big home runs in big situations, and look at what it does. It's so important. Look at this Brewers team. Look at this Rockies team. There's your definition of teams that are in a competitive state and a non-competitive state, no matter what the teams want to say, or where the teams say they are at in terms of competitiveness, because we all know where the Rockies think they stand. But folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us today and making us your first listen of the day. Go make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day, or stay up to date with all things Colorado sports with the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcast. Big time shout out to Eric Harper and Michael Disney in the live chat for hanging out with us today. And if you want to be part of the live chat, well, just subscribe on YouTube and you'll know when we're live, and you can pop in and ask your questions just like Michael and Eric did, and we can have a whole lot of fun. I have a lot more fun when I get to talk to you fans here in the live chat. So join us here on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Rockies. Follow me at Paul Holden 33, and make sure that you, give us a little rate, give us a little subscribe on your favorite podcast service. It helps us big time. And folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long.